Yo, it's your girl Yalanda Winston. Welcome to another episode of Yo Knows. I am here with Miss Demetris Curry of Inspired for Greatness. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about the multiple businesses that you have.
Oh, goodness. So, I am the president of Inspire for Greatness. Inspire for Greatness is around generational wealth strategy. Okay. So, we do offer several services within that business, but it's more so about helping people create legacies for their family and for their business.
All right. I love it. And so, my niche is real estate, but you teach people these skills in multiple areas of investment.
Yes, yes. Real estate, as a commercial real estate lending broker, which is different than a real estate broker, right? I am actually that person that the realtors sort of pass the baton to when they need to have funding for their project. So, as a commercial real estate lending broker, I do help in financial literacy with our business owners and help them understand how to get proper funding for their commercial properties. We don't only deal with business owners in that part of the area, but it can be residential properties. It just have to be things that's in the business name.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't realize that. Okay. So let's start out with talking about creating wealth. What are some of the resources or tools that you teach in that regard?
Well, in Inspired for Greatness, we actually do teach more than just real estate. We also teach them about their, cash flows and things of that nature, creating income for themselves off of their life insurance and annuities and things like that. So that's part of the things that we work in. Also work on 401k rollers, things like that really helps. The main thing is teaching people how to make sure they maximize their retirements. And we have a team of advisors that help with that. We have a team of attorneys that also help with protections as well, and we'll talk about that later, I think, today. But that's going to be part of building wealth. Residential, as you know, property ownership has always been known as a great way to create wealth, right?
Yeah.
In that business of adding and more properties onto your portfolio, that's cash flow. You want to be positively cash flowing in that property, right? But that's only one avenue of the creating legacy wealth and generational wealth. When you look at it, think of it as like a tree with all the branches. And it's just one tree, but it has several branches. Real estate is one of the major branches on that tree, right? And then you also consider, what do I do to create other streams of income? So as an entrepreneur or a business owner and things of that nature, that's when we start talking about income generation products, insurance products, annuity products, things of that nature that can help you long run and allow you to become your own bank. So that's what we do. We teach on that literacy of how to become your own bank, and generational wealth and real estate is one of the key components.
I want to learn more about the insurance aspect. So a little bit, how do you teach people how to build wealth through insurance?
Well, for generations, insurance was used to create wealth. I mean, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, they used that to create wealth. We just didn't know that as a people of understanding what insurance can be used for. So it's not just about death benefit. Death benefit is one avenue of life insurance if that's what you want to use it for. But there's a lot of people out there that's learned how to use the insurance to their benefit. For a good example of that is how you can put into a cash flowing property. You can use some of that cash flowing property and some of the income from maybe selling a home or things of that nature to dump into a life insurance policy. Yeah, and you can dump that into a life insurance policy as a lump sum or in increment payments. And as you do that, that particular policy can start making compound interest for you. And that compound interest now becomes an income stream. It starts to become an income stream. You can let it sit there and gain more and more compound interest to help you build a retirement along the way. And then you can also borrow from yourself later on from that same policy. Very great tax credit there, you know what I mean? So the taxes there is totally different than you having to go somewhere else and try to get a loan.
Now, would that be under, what type of policy would you need to do
that? Would be one of the ones that we love to use is the Index Universal Life policy. That policy protects against a downward market, but allows you to have an upside to a good market. So we really love that. So if you remember when subprime lending happened and there was a crash in 2008, 2009, when we had COVID and all these other things, Sometimes when you have those other type of investments, you have no protections into them, like the 401ks and the 403bs and the 529 plans. There's no barrier in there to protect you against the market not having a good period. But when we use the Index Universal Life policy, it allows you to have a floor built into that policy. That floor protects against recessions, inflations, and downward markets.
Okay.
So you don't lose the money that you've invested. You're not gaining anything at that time, but you're not losing anything either.
Okay.
So it locks you on a floor until the market can recover from what it's going through.
Okay. Now, I've been wondering what would be the benefits or repercussions of doing a RA or something like that versus a life insurance policy.
Well, I mean, a lot of times people like to use the RA. You have the traditional, you have the Roth, right? One is non-tax, one is tax, right? Well, the difference is that have the diversification of having control over when you can access it. With the IRA, you don't have that control. You know, you have the federal regulations of when you can get into it, 59 and a half, or if you get, 70 and a half years old, 71 years old, when you can start pulling from it, when you're required to start pulling, that kind of thing. When you're putting money into an insurance policy, you have the control of when you want to put money in and when you want to take money out, whether you want it to be a deposit on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, or even on an annual, or a one-time rollover. You have those options. We tell people, say, hey, if you want to use this as a diversification, if you want to have something that you have more control over, you can still use an IRA. You can still use a traditional and a Roth IRA to build those other things, right, to get that interest return. But if that's going to be a little bit more risky because there is no barriers there, there is no floors built into those. But if you want something that you can guarantee that you're going to get some growth, okay, and you want to make sure that you don't lose anything in the market. And if it goes down to the negative, like in 2008, it went down like 32, 36% negative. That's a lot to recover from.
Yeah.
And recovery normally takes anywhere between 7 to 9 years. When you're later on in life and you're trying to decide you want to go ahead and retire 10 years, 15 years, who wants to wait on recovery?
Right.
So if you have those type of things already in place, they're in place now, let them do what they do. You know what I mean? Just pick some good allocations for them. But on the flip side of that, diversify, right?
So that's why you have both.
Which is why I said it's a great idea to work with having something on the side that you have a little bit more control over as far as when you can pull it out and borrow from yourself, right? And you don't have to worry about that 59 and a half and that's 70 years old. But at the same time, you also have those barriers to protect against if the market doesn't do that great.
Okay, so you use the IRA, it's more like, less like your retirement fund.
IRA is going to be more
that's
so.
the way the government is.
That's the way, because that's a traditional thing. IRA, when you get more and more into the financial literacy, you're learning that there is more to it than BCI.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's more to it than BCI, not just, hey, I want to do, all I know is a Roth IRA, all I know is a traditional IRA, because that's all has been talked about. But when you start working with people that are a little bit more savvy on how do I get this information into something that makes sense for me? How do I get a chance to pull away from it when I want to pull away from it, right? And can I have a little bit more control of what I use it for?
Okay.
Yes, we even use those for children.
That's where I'm thinking, because a lot of people will take life insurance policy out on a child.
Yes.
And I'm always curious about the benefits or, if there's a better way to, or somewhere better to put that money.
Let me tell you, compound interest is a beautiful thing. It's one of my favorite words in the world.
I know, right? I know.
I love the word,
not just
compound interest.
Yeah.
It's
but you
one
have
of
to
the
have
most.
the right policy.
Yes, the right vehicle. The right vehicle. And so when I'm working with a client, let's just say when one comes sit down with me and say, hey, Ms. Curry, I have this in my portfolio. I have this. I have RAs. I have savings. I have checking. I have a 529 plan. I have, $20,000, $30,000 in savings that I'm not doing anything with. Can I put this somewhere where it can make some money? I don't want to mess with it for 10 years. What do I do with it? It gives us the opportunity to look at their entire portfolio and see how risky they are. And I love to bring in our advisors and say, hey, while I'm looking at this and I'm giving my strategy to it, we're going to get a second set of eyes over here and a second set of. So we have a team that looks at this together to make sure that we are not just looking at one side of the request, one side of the goal, but ultimately, what are you trying to do with it? And if you know that you're trying to create legacy for your children, I'll give you a good example. I did my son one when he was 2 years old. He's 16.
Insurance.
Which is the Index Universal Life. I did him one when he was 2. He's 16 now. I overfunded. What do? I use that as his 529 funds versus me putting into the 529 plan, which is education only plan. He can now pull from it to build his own business. Buy his first house, call Ms. Yo to get his first house. Who knows?
Right.
You know what I
love
mean?
that. Yeah.
And so now he has that money that he can borrow from himself. He is in control of that particular amount that's in there that's been compounding over the years. And he can borrow against it later on in life to do whatever he wants to do with it. And it's not actually locked into him having to be 59 and a half. It's not locked into it having to be an education fund. It's not locked into those things. Those things are great to have, but if you want some flexibility and options, my second favorite word, if you want
I am all into this insurance. I am, because like you said, as you become more savvy, you learn more and more things, and the insurance is something that.
Yes, because I've had financial advisors, for a long time. I have CPA accountants. I have all these, and they hate to see me coming, because I tell you, why we get together and I'm like, well, what about this? Well, what about that? What if I do this? Or what if I do that? Well, what protection is here and what protection is there? No protection. What do you mean? I'm asking these questions. And I'm like, I'm asking you questions that I already know the answer to. But it gives me, but I want to see where you're going with this, so we can see if we're on the same page of, what my goal is, what we're trying to do. And it's not just about getting to the finish point regardless. It's about how fast I can get to the finish point, right? And if it's going to cost me more in taxes,
right?
Is it going to cost me more in penalties? Is it going to cost me more in having to wait 20, 30 years? If those things don't make sense, and you are an entrepreneur, and you want to build out a business, and you want to buy a building in 10 years, and you got a goal for this and a goal for that, we're going to customize what you want to fit that goal and say, based off of what you express to us, and this is what you're trying to do, this will get you here in 5 years. This will get you here in 10 years. And this is based off of historical numbers. Of course, we can't guarantee anything, but based off of historical numbers, you could be here, or you could be there, or you could be. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And so people are using those type of annuities, and we even have growth annuities that we work with. We have income generating annuities that we work with. So depending on the person's in front of me, if they have a TSP in front of me, or they have a 401k that they left an old job and they need to do something with it, or whatever or if they just got lump sum money sitting somewhere and need to do something with it, then we say, what do you want this money to do for you? That's my question.
Yeah, and then you decide.
And then we decide.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
Because it's not a one size fit all.
I'm seeing. So how would someone who question what type of insurance policy they have if they had the Universal Life Index?
We can usually do a review.
Okay.
We do free reviews.
Okay.
Definitely.
See, you know where I was getting with that.
I see where you're going. Yes, we do free reviews.
Okay.
So if they have a policy and they have no idea what they have, we just tell them to pull their declaration page or pull their policy package, bring it with them, get on our calendar, and let's highlight the areas. Because I'm not going to talk to you about just, this is what I see. I want you to see the pages that I see, and I want to highlight on page 2, look here. On page 1, look there. This is what your amortization looks like. This is when it's scheduled to expire. This is how much cash you're going to have into it. This is how much it's building up. This is the return that it's doing. We'll look at those and say, this is what you have. This is what you could have. Which one do you want to keep?
Right. Okay. All right. So let's get into how do they sustain.
Ooh.
So first you create, next you sustain.
Yes. So as you're creating, like we just talked about, we're creating, putting things into the right place. How do you keep those things going? All right. Sustainability is based off of what vehicle you actually chose. So if you got through part 1 with me, and now we're in part 2 about how to sustain that, we're going to look and see what you're trying to do with that particular property, or in this case, we're talking about real estate. If we're talking about sustaining a good real estate property as part of your portfolio package and what that property is supposed to do, then we're going to look at where you want it to do with that property in the next 5 to 10 years. Is it going to end up being an Airbnb or corporate housing? Do you want to, lease it out? Are you going to actually sell it for a profit? Use that profit to buy another thing, because we do strategize in that area too. So it's like, hey, you got this much equity. You have this property here. This is how much you owe on it. If you want to buy a secondary property, but you don't have no right now cash, how are you going to sustain your wealth? You can add on. It comes a compound effect. I told you I love compound. Compound effect. And you can do compound effect even in real estate. Okay? So you just got to know exactly what you're going to do with that particular money when you get it.
Okay.
We get excited. We get $75,000 at close and $100,000.
Let me tell you. Yeah.
I didn't sell my property. I got $200,000. Now you going on the shopping spree. No, ma'am.
Yeah, exactly. Budget that money before you
let's have a vision for where that money is going before you even get it. And so that's one of the things that we talk about is, when I send people or my clients to a realtor and I say, hey, this is what you want to do. This is how much cash you have. How much are you allocating to that project? And then what are we doing with the rest? Right. So how are we going to sustain your wealth? How are we going to make sure you don't just have one property only, and then add on to it, get that to where it needs to be, make sure those cash flows are going good, make sure you got a tenant that's making their rent on time, that kind of thing, so you don't get into a situation where you're paying for the rent and having to figure out how to put a tenant out. That's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
But those are the type of things that landlords go through when they're trying to create wealth using real estate.
So people have to understand that you're there with them throughout the process. It's not just a one-time thing.
Yes.
Almost like, you buy your property from me, then you don't talk to me again until you want to buy another property, kind of. But with you, you're someone who is there throughout their entire journey.
I am, because I'm in their lives in so many different ways. I tell them all the time when they walk into my office, I say, get ready to get tired of me, because you'll probably have me forever in your life. And they're like, I'm okay with you being in my life forever, which is great, because we're gonna talk about your kids and your grandkids, what you're trying to do for them. We're gonna talk about what you got going on in your family. You and your husband on the same page. Okay, let's talk about that too. You see what I'm saying? Let's see what we need to do. Is he okay with this and he okay with that? Okay, he's not. All right, what do you want me to do at this point? Do you want me to help do this and that and the other? Because I don't want to get in the midst of any type of situation. But I do want to make sure you as an individual is meeting your goals. Right? And so we even have those conversations with husband and wives. You have no idea. Sometimes we have a husband that come in and he like, she don't care what I do, just do whatever. She don't care. She don't want to look at the papers. She don't want to look at the accounts. She don't. And I'm like, really? And she's like, I just don't want to be involved. Whatever you guys do, that's okay with me. Okay, sign right here that you're okay with everything. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Wow. So, and we'll go from there and we'll build it out as a family legacy.
Gotcha. Okay.
Even if she says she doesn't want to be involved. So so you have to have those hard conversations too. And then when it comes to sustainability, now we're talking about how do we make sure that it gets to our loved ones the way we want it to get to our loved ones. And that's where the transition is. Because now we've helped you create, we've helped you move around your portfolio to hit all the goals and your new lifestyle, because where you were 20 years ago, you're not there right now. So if you want them things changed, now you got a husband, now you got grandchildren, you got all these things that you didn't have 20, 30 years ago. Now we have to adjust to your right now circumstances. Now we've done that, and we've basically looked to see what's going to happen in the future as a forecast. The next thing is, how do we protect these things?
Yes, protect the assets.
And what I learned was, in working with a lot of landlords and builders and even some of my realtors, they have all these properties with no protections. And they're like, oh, well, I do have a will, but a will by itself won't protect you against probate. So I started working and making some relationships with a lot of our attorney partners. So I brought on about 13 attorneys to help us and to make sure we can create a trust, will, estate plan, complete estate plan to help them with their power of attorneys, and make sure that was in place for while they're living, and to have a trust and will in place in case they were ever to pass, and to make sure they avoid going to probate if they don't have to go to probate?
Because it costs. What do you pay probate
Oh,
court?
goodness. Probate can be really expensive. So the estate plans and estate taxes, and by the time you finish putting in judge fees, attorney fees, et cetera, you're talking about 40%. That's a lot.
That's too much.
Yeah.
Just because you didn't properly plan.
Because you did not properly plan.
Yeah. And we hear about those type of things with celebrities, you know.
Yes,
they did not plan, and now all of this is going on with their estate.
People that we know, you know, like Red Fox, Michael
Prince.
Jackson, Prince,
Aretha Franklin,
you know, people that even Marilyn Monroe and the famous Howard Hughes and all these other people that we've seen in movies and in radio and magazines and all this, and you're like, oh my God, they got all this money. You know, Prince, Michael Jackson, George Lopez, actually, you know George Lopez, the comedian, he actually had to give money away to the family to help bury Prince at that time because all of his assets were tied up into probate. Those are the type of things where you do not want to have to do a fish fry to bury your loved ones or to ask your family members to chip in because your estate is locked up into probate. And here in the state of Alabama, we have a 6-month minimum. Now imagine if you have family people that have a home that's only in their name, and maybe it's a mom and dad that's only in their name, and we will automatically think, well, let's just add the children's name onto the house. Not a good idea, because what if they decide to one day sell that home? Now you got capital gains tax to consider that you just rolled to your children. So now we got to look at how do we get around that? Put the property inside of a trust, let it roll to your children, and then let them decide what to do with it at that point without worrying about the estate planning taxes. There you go.
Teach them.
There are things that's important.
So we got create, sustain, and protect.
Yes, create, sustain, and protect. And all of that is part of legacy building. All of that is part of legacy building. So what I love to do is when we do our financial literacy events, and you've probably seen this, and sometimes we go to the universities and we work with quite a few organizations here in the area, and we go into different colleges and talk about that. But it's really important that we as a people, we understand this. Now, this sits home for me because, and I don't know if I've ever told you this story, my grandmother raised us on a farm. And I have a farm. All of my family is farmers. 14 children. My mom was the 9th one out of 14.
Oh, wow.
So imagine all of us pulling, stuff out the ground, tobacco, peas, you name it. On her land was a chicken farm. And she also had hogs that we raised. Now I'm thinking, I'm like 7, 8 years old at this point. I'm over here cleaning chicken. I'm going on the muscadine trees and climbing the trees and dropping them down to our family in buckets. This was our land. When my grandmother passed of a stroke, I remembered years prior to her saying, when I ever leave this earth, you guys have this land. And we thought it was our land because the land itself, we've always been there. We've always had all these chicken and animals and everything on the land that we raised, okay? But come to find out, once my grandfather passed and once my grandmother passed, the family that family worked for, the farmers that we worked for, owned that land.
Oh, wow.
And what we understood to be true is that she would give back a piece of every dollar that she earned farming their land. Paid for land, but was in cash. Paid for land. When that family passed as well, and it was just down to their children to make decisions, we had no deed to show that grandma had paid for this land. Over the years, sweat and tears. All this time, we're all using the kids to be on the land with her. We had a lot of family, a lot of aunts and uncles on that land, helping towards, picking the peas and the strawberries and the tobacco and all this stuff and the corn and everything they pull. And I'm like, okay, so what happened? Back then, it was easy to not have your paperwork for a number of reasons, okay? For a number of reasons. Not necessarily her fault, but also for a number of reasons. At that time, it was the most devastating thing to understand. Our whole family thought the paperwork was in place.
Oh, wow.
Because she always said, my important papers is in the armoire.
You remind me of that commercial, that wheel commercial where the guy pops up out of it. That won't work.
That won't work.
Don't count.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
If it's not documented, it didn't happen. That's the way the world thinks. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. My job now and what I do is making sure it's documented.
Right.
I take it to heart.
Right.
Because my family went through that, of thinking that this land that we grew up on, you know, hogs that I helped slop, chicken eggs that I helped pull, you know what I'm saying? Listening to, you know, the roosters cock-a-doodle-doo every morning, thinking that that was our land and it was already on paper, that it was our family legacy. And in the end, when she passed, when I was in high school, we found out the land wasn't ours. It wasn't until much later on. We had been trying to find the property. We were trying to buy the land. They didn't want to sell the land. But then, I want to say about 15, 20 years ago, one of the other family members in my family, who was also a realtor, found it for sale, but it was actually sold by the time we found it for sale.
Oh, wow.
Property we would have gotten together as cousins and aunts and paid for, but we didn't get the chance to buy it.
Wow.
So you think about how that's so impactful. And so when I sit down, I have people that come into my office, and I have a big range of clients between the ages 60 and 95 that sits in my office, and sometimes they, you know, because we cover all 50 states. So even if I'm not in my office, we can do a virtual appointment. So no matter where I am, if I'm talking to them online or if I'm talking to them in my office, imagine some of the stories they tell us.
Oh, gotcha.
About what their family went through and why they're trying to avoid probate and why they want to make sure that their stuff is together. And they don't want to pay taxes on adding all the kids to it and making them pay taxes because they're going to want to sell the properties and all this other stuff. And I said, you know what? This is why we got a team of attorneys here. This is why I asked for this collaboration. This is why I asked for this community to pull together, and advisors and you know, having attorneys and having all these insurance agents. This is why we pull that together. So when we look at the whole tree of legacy building, that we have specialists in every section.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a powerful story, and I can understand now why it's so important to you, what you do.
It's very important to me.
And why you're so passionate about it. That's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that
Yes,
story.
you're
I
welcome.
think that changes the dynamic of what you do, because sometimes we happen to just get into an industry because we like it, but when you have such a powerful story to you know, share with it, that makes the world of difference. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
I appreciate your time, and I cannot wait to have another conversation with you, Demetris.
This is part one.
Yes, you guys, this is part one. So please stay tuned and be sure. How can they follow you or find you?
Oh goodness, if you guys want to follow me, still come look at me at demetriscurry.com, or also look at our website if you're looking for services and need assistance. Go to ifgbrokerservices.com. That's ifgbrokerservices.com. To connect with me online, I'm at Demetris_Curry.
All right. So thank you so much, you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.